Yeah, so in a recent blog post, I was writing about education as a complex system and thinking about where technology fits into that, and particularly where coding fits into um, that whole entire system. So I thought I would just, and in that blog post, I described a little bit about what I thought that system might look like. And so I thought I'd just verbally do it here a little bit and describe the diagram a little more. So in the top, I just have this idea that this whole system is based around these boundaries of social need and the mediated boundaries to meet that need. And so what I mean by mediated boundaries kind of sit over here in this idea of technology. Now there is a concept of technological determinism that I'm not trying to make a statement on here one way or another. uh, but we do use technology to mediate how we communicate and learn from one another. And in the blog post, I talk about how communication and learning are essentially the same processes. So I use those terms interchangeably, but technology mediates that. And so our ability to create tools to enhance or even hinder how we connect with others has a lot to do with how we meet our social needs. Uh, and, you know, coding is at the very foundational level of how we use our digital technology to create those tools. So that's sort of the premise of this whole system. And then it's looking at like, well, if teachers are teaching coding, where do they sit in that system and what should they be thinking about with it? Uh, and so that's this portion over here of social need, because that's what teachers do. We meet social needs. We provide the norms and uniform experience of learning to create a sense of community among people. If we didn't have teachers doing that, then everybody could do that individually in very small little groups, and we would be very segmented. But the act of having agreed to the social contract of public education means that there's a normalization in that, and it helps us get along. And we can see currently in the world where when we're polarized, what those impacts are. And teachers are the ones that can really shape and fix that problem. Okay, so off my off my soapbox. Uh, you know, teachers have this circle in the system of school, student, teachers. That's like the closest interactions. And then we always think about community engagement, and then that reaches out to parents, government, and tribes. Well, in rural Alaska usually, or in any Alaska tribes. Um, and so this is kind of how I conceptualize this system, is that we sit over here as the educators trying to meet the social need. And then on the other side are these technological tools that we generally just use uh, to meet those social needs. But then when we get to teach coding, it bumps us way back down into connecting those two systems, to thinking about how we can create our own tools to meet our own needs. And I think that's just at a very big level, super exciting, and just kind of where coding sits in the big picture of education.